You know, he was a really hard worker, like I would say one of the top 3 hardest working superstars I've ever seen. The hours that he put into the gym can't be matched. Those are some of the things I want to be able to bring to life here in Malaysia. You know, to some of the players on how hard you want to work, how hard you have to work in order to be great.
You played for several NBA teams during your career, right? And then can you highlight any standout moment or challenges you faced while you were in the league?
I think the biggest challenge is just, adjusting from college to back to NBA. You know what I'm saying? The style of play is different. It's a lot faster than people think. Players from front to back are extremely talented. Lifestyle is different. You know, guys are grown men, so people go home to their families versus us being in college where we probably, would spend more time with each other after practice and stuff like that. In the NBA, I got a 40-year-old on the team, a 44-year-old. So it's just a different dynamic, so it's more so kind of, you kind of on your own a bit. So just making those adjustments was always tough, because coming from a family environment like Michigan State, where we did everything together, to moving on to, another situation where it's just kind of like, all right, man, see you when I see you, so, the camaraderie wasn't the same as it was in college.
I mean, you play with Dirk Nowitzki. How was that experience? Play with one of the best players in that era.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's historic. It's a historic moment, man, playing with a Hall of Famer. And, sitting on the plane with him every day, cracking jokes. He was a big jokester. He would make fun of everything. He was a really hard worker, like I would say one of the top 3 hardest working superstars I've ever seen, considering that he's a Hall of Famer. He was older at that time. And the hours that he put into the gym can't be matched. You know what I'm saying? I got a chance to see him before practice, after practice, before games, after games and getting shots up. So those are some of the things I want to be able to bring to life here in Malaysia. To some of the players on how hard you want to work, how hard you have to work in order to be great. So it's like you put that time and that effort in, like some of these greats do. You might not necessarily make it to the highest level, but the game of basketball will take care of you one way or another. So I'm just trying to get these guys to realize how important it is to put in extra work and how important it is, not only just for your basketball, but to actually help develop your mental and become disciplined, focused about something that you care about. If you desire to be the best, put in that extra work. And that's what I got from Dirk.
Is that the best lesson you have learned in your NBA career?
No, I say the best lesson is really just learning to stay professional. Taking care of yourself on and off the court. Taking care of your business. Making sure that you're not allowing too many outside distractions. Come in between what you're supposed to be doing on the basketball court. So I think that's very important. I feel like a lot of with social media stuff like that, it makes it a lot difficult for these kids to stay focused. So I would definitely recommend that they just do whatever they got to do in order to keep themselves focus on the game, and everything that matters to them in life. What I'm saying? Not just basketball, but whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah, true. I totally agree with you about the professionalism of the players.
Yeah.
You have to stay focused and stay professional.